Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for one of our interview series with our CCA adults and other members of our community who are making a huge difference. Today, I am with Hannah Setzer, who is a disability advocate and also an entrepreneur. And as she says herself, all the things, which we will get into
Mhm.
shortly. I am very excited to talk to her. Hannah has some long, long ago roots in CCA, but we just got reintroduced a couple of weeks ago, and due in large part to an article that was published about Hannah's work in the Washington Post. And so, without further ado, I will let Hannah say a little few words about herself, and then I will kind of ask some questions and we'll just have a quick conversation. So, take it over, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. So I do all the things. I am in a wife to my husband Brandon. I'm a mom to four teenage boys. I own my own business and I have a full-time job as a disability rights advocate. Besides all those things, we live out in the country and we have a farm. We have goats and a pig and like 35 chickens, and we are busy out here.
That is awesome. I'm very jealous of the goats and the pig, especially.
The pig is very, very cute. He's the best.
That is awesome. And then remind me again where you live.
So we live out in Powhatan, Virginia. It's about 45 minutes from downtown Richmond. So not too far, but far enough that we have our own little slice of heaven out here in the country.
Far enough that when you have to go into town, it's going into town.
Yeah, we have two food lines and a Walmart out here, so we are high class living out here in the country.
You got it all. The country has met the 21st century. Awesome, awesome. Well, some of the things that we like to just learn about folks in our community is I want to touch on what I said earlier. So you were involved with CCA a long time ago, and then there was a big long hiatus. So tell me about your very first introduction, and then basically we'll kind of catch up what you've been doing since then.
I should have asked my dad and mom. I mean, I was really part of CCA when I was little, probably like three, four, like maybe 6 or 7. I have some pictures of like family picnics and retreats and things from back in the day, and they're so cute. And I remember friends that I had in it. But it was definitely like way, way, way a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of times we have seen that now since CCA has been around for over 30 years. There are a lot of people there in the beginning, and as it's changed and grown, it's so nice to just to reconnect because, this whole generation has grown up and made lives for themselves, but the best part is finding out, kind of where everybody went from there. So along that line, um we want to know basically a brief synopsis of maybe high school to where you are now. So, like, how did you get into what you're doing? How did you decide? A brief overview of your family, just whatever you want to share.
Yeah, so um, I was born outside of DC in a small town called Warrenton. Well, I was born in Fairfax, but I lived in Warrenton my whole life. Um, I have three older brothers and went to college in North Carolina at a private Christian college in the mountains of North Carolina. And from that, got a degree in American Sign Language and moved out to Colorado to work at a camp for kids who were deaf and hard of hearing. And I was out there maybe like 6 to 8 months, not a terribly long time. And moved back to North Carolina to just have jobs and hang out with my friends who still lived in the same college town that I had been in. In North Carolina, I sold everything I owned and moved to South America for 9 months, 8 months. And in 2014, I was there January to December at a children's home in Brazil and teaching English and doing some other things. And then moved back to Virginia August 2014 and started to get my master's in social work at UCU in Richmond. And I have been in Richmond and outside of Richmond ever since then. And 2016, I met my husband, Brandon, and we dated for a year, got married in September 2017. He moved to Richmond, got my job as a disability rights advocate. Shortly after we got married and started my job in November of that year, and it has been crazy ever since we got married. We got a house in the suburbs a year after we got married and started the process of becoming foster parents. And we became licensed foster parents in started the process in 2018, got licensed in 2019, and had our first placement was a 14-year-old girl, and she was with us about 6 months. And then since then, that placed in June of 2019 with a 12-year-old boy who we have now adopted. He's 14 now. Our son, Nate, who, adopted from foster care. And we have 3 other boys now that we are in the process of adopting. And last June, decided to join the suburbs in the country and moved out to the country, and it's the best decision that we've ever made. And our boys love it out here, having land to run wild on and have animals to take care of, and it's been really fun. In that time frame, we also started a business. We own an elderberry business. We make elderberry syrups and jellies and candles and teas and all things elderberry. And if you had told me and Brandon like 5 years ago that we would live out in the country and have 4 kids and own a business and had 10,000 animals, like we would think that you were crazy, but here we are, and it's amazing. It's so wild and fun, and we are so grateful to be where we are.
That is so awesome. So I have like a million follow-up questions, but my first is like, how do you do it all in a day? Because I know in addition to everything you've mentioned, you also are very into fitness. So we can get into that in a minute, but I love the part, and I just want to ask a follow-up question. Do you use ASL at all in your daily life now?
I do not. On the rare occasion that somebody comes into our office that speaks ASL, but I am not a certified interpreter or anything, so I don't use it on a daily basis.
No worries. That is just an interesting question because we have it's a big part of our community as well. And so I always like to mention that, and that you went to school for that. So that's very cool. Another question I have is, tell me a little bit more about elderberry, because I know there are some, interesting facts about it or perhaps uses, and I just wanted to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I bought some elderberry syrup like just on a run one day at CVS, and I had a sore throat, and I had handed out like, oh, everybody is really good at fighting colds and flus and sore throats possibly. So I got some, but then I tried to be pretty all natural, holistic. I don't do low sugar, so try to be as sugar free as possible. And so I got some, and it like worked really well. Like my sore throat went away almost instantly, and I was like, what is this stuff? And Brandon was to try to make things on his own. He's very like granola, homegrown-ish. So he did our research and looked at lots of recipes, and we just started like experimenting and found a recipe combination that we liked a lot and started making our own everyday syrup and saw the benefits of it, boosting immunity and yeah, it's like scientific proven to boost immunity and things like that. And so started making it just our family and friends, and then really approached last February, or that's like last January. And there's some friends that own a store here in the Richmond area, and they're like, hey, if you get certified to be like to have a business license and to make this and sell it, like we'll sell it in our stores. And we were like, okay, and so we figured out how to become a business and formed an LLC. And so we make everyday syrup and jelly, and we just use everyday cinnamon, cloves, ginger, and raw local honey. So it's all natural ingredients, and yeah, really have taken off since starting in February last year. It was an interesting time to start a business right before the global pandemic. But we have been doing really well, and it's been really fun to figure out and resell in stores and restaurants all over the Richmond area and online. We have shipped to all 50 states. We have shipped to Australia, Canada, Norway, Guam, Mexico, Canada, and yeah, we're like trying to take over the world with my own day stuff.
Well, it is a good time to take over the world with some immune boosting properties. So I think that is of special interest to our community. That's why I mentioned it, because I know a lot of people are trying to balance the Eastern and the Western medicines and to take care of themselves as much as they can, because the healthier you are going into a surgery or a procedure or just living with any kind of interventions, the healthier you are in general.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So moving on to a little bit more of your social media, because I know this is another particular interest to a lot of our families. They really want to get their story out there and share, not necessarily triumphant stories, but just like, we're here and, we are people deserving of respect and that want to live quote unquote normal, successful lives. And so my question with you is, how did you get started online? How did you decide that was a platform that you wanted to take on?
So, I mean, I am of the MySpace generation, so I had a MySpace like everyone else did that in the early 90s, early 2000s. And then had a Facebook thread, and I had an Instagram when it came out, and I was actually looking at it the other day, and like the pictures are so terrible. I had like 0 likes on anything. It's so funny. But you mentioned earlier that I am into fitness and moving my body, and so January 1st, 2018, I decided to like move my body and work out for 30 days, as people tend to do on New Year's, make a resolution. So I made, that New Year's resolution, and I worked out for 30 days, and I felt really good. And strong, and it was really fun. So I just kept going. I was like, oh, I'll do 50 days, 100 days later. And so ended up, I think the end of August in 2018, and I had been talking about using that diary a lot on my personal Instagram. And I think some of my friends were either annoyed with it or were just like, oh, you should just make a separate account. Maybe because they didn't want to see it all the time. I don't know. But so I made an account called Season 2 Fitness and just talked about how I moved every day. It wasn't, I've never once in this whole time have had a gym membership. It's been just at home and like just out in the world, hiking and not climbing, whatever. Um, and yeah, I mean, I started the account with zero intention of like sharing a story or anything. It was just like another fitness account, you know, how people had those on Instagram. But people, like my username is Season 2 Fitness. And so I think people like started to see me, like I had the Season 2 and I had a Season 2 in my belly. And I think people are like, wow, like, what is this girl doing? Like, she's living her body, she has a Season 2. And so people are like, message me or comment with questions about my story. And like slowly share things. I'm very honest, and so I was never hiding anything. And I was like, oh, I'm just here for fitness. Like nobody cares about like who I am and my backstory. And that is not a true statement. People were very interested and still continue to be very interested in medical stuff, health stuff, using my body, like all the things, the business, like everything. People are very kind and engaged and interactive. And yeah, I mean, I'm coming up on the 3 year, wait, I can't do that. Yeah, the 3 year anniversary of the account. And I had no, like, literally no idea 3 years ago that I would have this like online platform and online presence, and I have like 37,000 followers now, and it's literally just ridiculous. Like, really, I get stopped like at Walmart and Target and people are like, "This on Instagram." I'm like, "How do you know me?" Like, that's so crazy. Like, that kids, it's like the most wild thing ever that people like just know me. But yeah, I think I'm really grateful that I had the platform I have. People are very engaged, and I think it's eye opening. I'm very, like I said, very honest about what I share. So I share like the mean things and the stupid things that people say to me, because one, I think people should know that people who look different get treated differently. Um, and two, it's like just starting to call out the idiots on the internet because that's what they are. Like, I have always been a very confident person, so I'm like not affected by what strangers on the internet think about me. That it's like just like entertaining to call them out and to be like, yeah, these are things that people say to me every day, like online or in person or whatever. So I know that can be intimidating for some people as they start to think about sharing their journey or their kids' journeys. Because I know a lot of parents will talk about their kids' journeys and medical journeys. And it is like intimidating that there's people out there that raised however they were raised to think it's okay to say things to people on the internet. But I think that's like And it's just something that you have to anticipate and just have a plan of like, this is how I'm going to deal with it. And I choose to deal with it by calling it out. And sometimes that's finding out who the person's parents are and telling them that their kids are doing these things online. Because that's them too.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a lot of important points there, especially timely right now. There's a lot going around on a TikTok trend, and I like what you said. A couple of things. I mean, you said you were always a naturally confident person, and so I think that is important. If you are not naturally confident, to kind of build that confidence and trust in yourself that you'll handle it correctly before you put yourself out there. But if you're already out there, then having, like you said, that plan of how you're going to deal with it, whether it's calling it out, addressing it head on. I think we've really seen that this week, that it's not okay for people to just get away with this, because a lot of times it's like, oh, well, just ignore the trolls, and that can be very effective. But sometimes you have to say, this is not right, this is wrong behavior, this is discrimination, this is bullying, whatever effect it might be taking on. And I like that you said, you can contact the people's parents if you know them, you can call them out, and you can just say, this is not acceptable behavior. So I think those are really valid and important points, and also just extremely timely for kind of what we're seeing now, is really recognizing that this type of hate speech should not be just brushed off or swept under the rug. We can also push back and say it's unacceptable. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and I appreciate that that's naturally your method to handling it, because everybody has a little bit different method, and just preparing early on before you go public with your story is excellent. Is an excellent way to get ready to share your story. So thank you for highlighting that. I definitely want to continue on with more conversations and talks with you. I feel like I could ask you a million different parts of your life, but I think that I would like you to kind of just, for this interview, wrap us up with a closing on how to be authentically you. It sounds like maybe you were just naturally yourself, but was there a time that you really had to, at any point in your life, dig deep and say, this is who I am, and I embrace it and accept it, and not feeling those limitations? Because when you talked about fitness, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have this or that, I'm limited, I'm in some way not able to do this. So how did you overcome that? Any point, any example, or just in general? I think that would be really encouraging.
I think it's easy online, especially Instagram, to get caught up in like, oh, the algorithm says I have to do this. So like the posting formulas of like post 4 pictures a week and 3 video whatever, and but I just had like vowed to myself, like I'm never going to post something that I don't care about, or I'm just never going to try to do something I'm not on Instagram. I've never used a filter. I've never like done the pose where you're like sticking your butt out to make your butt look bigger, like sitting in my tummy or anything, right? And I've always just been myself, and I, throughout the past 3 years, have had 2 pretty intense surgeries. One, I had my spleen out, and then that was last year, and then this year I had a broken jaw and had to have jaw surgery. And like, you can look on my profile and there's pictures and videos of me like lifting 20-pound weights, and then there's pictures of me lifting 3-pound weights. Like after I had my spleen out, I was like not the same as I was before I had my spleen out. And I had just always been honest about it, and then like, no, this is not a continually upward like progress. Like things have set me back, and like, yeah, it's kind of embarrassing to go from 15 pound weights to like 1 in 3 time rapes, that's just the reality is my body went through something once traumatic, had an organ taken out, and so I just have to adapt to it. And that's not to say that since I've had my spleen taken out, like, yeah, I built that up, that, yeah, I had to stay away back. And I think some people would be like, oh my gosh, like, that's like so lame, or like, I would be embarrassed by that, like, using one time rates or whatever, but that's was just my reality, and it wasn't anything that I was ashamed of. I was proud of my body for recovering so quickly and healing so quickly because I had taken such good care of it over the past 3 years that I intentionally did. It's not just about weightlifting, like anything is intentional movement, walking, chasing the kids, chasing chickens, like whatever, you know. Um, so yeah, just not ascribing to the things that social media says you have to do to be successful. Like you are you, and you had the story that you had, and people will be interested in it because people want authenticity more than they want to see another white girl sticking her butt out on social media. Right? I mean, that's cool if that's your jam, but like the world wants you as a person. It doesn't want a filtered version of you.
Yeah, I love that. That is the essence of what I hope, every video we create is like, be the authentic, unfiltered you, as you said, because that's going to attract the people that you want to be around anyway. For sure. So again, I am so excited that we had this time together. I want to follow up with you. I've got questions about dating and parenting and your choice to foster, how amazing that is. But I'm sure that all of these questions I want to ask you, we will break them up into bite-sized segments so people can watch and then join back in later and keep coming back, because this is what we want to do at CCA. We want to lift up voices of people who understand that being the most unique version of you is the way to go. And we're here to encourage you along the way. Yeah, so you said it perfectly. I can't say it any better. I'm trying to wrap us up, but you said it perfectly. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing so openly and being so available. I know it's a lot to ask people to give their time. And so I want to really acknowledge that you don't have a lot of it and you chose to share it with us. And that means a huge amount. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we will talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Awesome.